Welcome back to the Wizard Shop, and it is the oddest car that I've ever seen and probably you've never seen, and it's broken. Let's take a look. So many of you right now are running through your mind and saying, what in the world is this thing? No, it's not an overinflated VW Beetle. It's not this, it's not that. There's all kinds of weird things you could think that this car is. But essentially, it's a Nissan Murano. And even some of my friends that are really strong car guys really haven't even heard of this thing. They made so few of them. This is called the Nissan Murano Cross Cabriolet. That's kind of a weird word for it. It's basically a crossover SUV that's a convertible, two-door. And it does look very, very strange. It's here in the shop today for one reason. The convertible top does not work. This is a common problem on these. It's a common failure point, and we're going to talk about that here in a minute. But let's go ahead and take a look around this odd car and see all the angles on it. So from up here, it looks like just your average Nissan Murano. And in the engine bay and in this area, it basically is just a Nissan Murano. But where it gets strange is when we start walking around to the side and we don't see a four-door, we see a two-door, really big, huge two doors, and a soft top. This one's in pretty nice condition. It's not beat up, and it has pretty low miles. Mrs. Wizard will show you that here in a minute. It's got brand new tires all the way around, BF Goodrich tires. And as we come along to the rear, we see again, Mrs. Wizard, it looks like Nissan Juke taillights.
They just weren't overly inventive in designing new taillights per vehicle.
They seem to like the angular, triangular, weird taillights on Nissans. Look up there, guys. Look at the Juke. Look at the taillights. That weird angular thing going on. This one's all-wheel drive, as you can see, and it has a U-Haul hitch at the bottom. And we go along to the side. No dents or scrapes except for that. That's a little scuff. That's not really a scratch or a scrape. It's a scuff in the paint, which really isn't that big a deal. Maybe it could be buffed out. And we're back around again to Murano land. We're back in Nissan Murano land up here. So let's go ahead and take a look in the interior and let Mrs. Wizard show you guys around. It's even stranger on the inside.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so let's start here at the door. Let's kind of take a peek as we kind of would normally get into here. And look at this monstrous door. It has a very good easy in and out feature, I will give it that. But if you were to try and get into the back seat, here we go. Ooh, let's go a little faster. We can also move forward. I'm physically having to hold these buttons. If I let go, it stops. So if you're trying to get to the back seat here, it is, well, whatever you do, do not rob a bank with 4 people and try and get them into the back seat very quickly, because it's not a very quick entry or exit. And it doesn't automatically stop. You have to stop it where you would like it. So that's kind of an interesting feature. But let's go ahead and crawl in. So here we are, back at the steering wheel. And we'll see that it does say it has 60,416 miles on it. So it really doesn't have a whole lot on here. And of course, it's lit up like a Christmas tree because it's in accessory mode, not running. So obviously none of those things are actually a problem. It wants me to push the brake to get the car started, which we're not doing. You can see there is a little bit of dust here. Looks like some water spots in it. So maybe there's a little bit of an issue with that convertible top not closing at some point. And it looks like it just needs a good wipe down. Dash is looking great. So we move down to the infotainment system. It's looking really good. Other than dust, looks like it's operating just fine. I'm not so sure about that fuel economy though, 18.8 miles per gallon, but that's what this little fun summer cruiser, I guess, is. As we move down, very simple controls to, use the car to its abilities. Not so sure what's going on down there. I imagine this has something to do with the function of that convertible top, but that's going to be part of Wizard's gig in just a second. As we look by our gear selector, we'll see that it has lovely plastic wood trees down here, but it doesn't look too bad. Very simple little control there, little nice little hidey hole. big spot for drinks, and again, that covers up as well. We do have a nice camel brown leather, and we have that also on the door card as well, along with some more of that fabulous plastic wood. As we move to the back seat, we do have, you can tell this is a 4-seater, not a 5-seater. So it has 2 buckets in the back with a nice cup holder between the two, with an interesting outward shoulder belts. It's kind of different. The headliner, even though it is our convertible top, really is doing well. I don't see any sagging or any other, few little maybe minor marks, but nothing too major, other than it doesn't operate. So one thing, before we move to the steering wheel like we normally end our videos, I thought I'd point this out to you. What the heck is this? I know what it's for. It's meant to keep the seat belt attached to the seat, but with snaps? I would hate to think if that's their invention of how to keep the seatbelt in place when, you know, we could be in an accident. I guess they do make sure we know that there is an airbag just right there. So maybe that's their saving grace. But as we end up here at that steering wheel, again, standard as it says, Nissan design here. Simple controls on our steering wheel, nothing too crazy there. Otherwise, let's get back to the Wizard and see what exactly is going on with that convertible top.
So that was a lot of weirdness in the interior, but let's open the bonnet or the hood and take a look at some normalcy, some basic Nissan technology. This is the typical Nissan 3.5 V6 that's in the Muranos, 260 horsepower and 240 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 60 in 8 seconds, a quarter mile, 16.6. And the fuel economy is 18 in the city and 24 on the highway. We're really not looking at much under the hood, being it's only 60,000 miles. Really, engine-wise, there's nothing wrong. If we can figure out the convertible top and it's not too expensive, I may recommend a CVT flush. It's definitely time for that on this. So everything looks fairly clean under the hood. There's really, like I said, not much to look at, but to give you guys an idea, under the hood here, it's basically just a Nissan Murano. So when this came out, and maybe even to this day, it was the world's first crossover, convertible, kind of SUV, well, basically a crossover. The first year was 2011. They put it in a car show, a kind of an automotive show in 2010, but it actually went into production in 2011. And then they discontinued it in 2014. So it was only offered for a 4-year production run, and then they shut it down. It was also only offered in the LE trim level. There was no other different trim levels. If you ordered the Cross Cabriolet, you got an LE, whether you liked it or not. That was the only option, which is basically leather interior and some of the upscale options that Mrs. Wizard just showed you.
Like the plastic wood.
Yeah, like the plastic wood. I don't know that you can get real wood on some of the Asian cars, the Lexuses or Infinities. Maybe you can if you get really upscale, but usually it's the plastic trees. Like I just mentioned, it's the same engine as the Nissan Murano, and some of the production notes that I was reading earlier today is from the firewall, which is about right here, back. Everything had to be redesigned from the Murano chassis to accommodate this strange convertible top, the 2-door structure, all the different things, the safety, the airbags, everything from here back is not a Nissan Murano. But from here forward, it is. So from here forward, if any issues arise, you can just order parts for a Nissan Murano and it'll bolt right on. But from here back, window regulators, window motors, a Murano part is not going to fit. This has a longer 2-door setup, which is not going to work with Murano parts. The interior parts are different. Almost everything is different, just like I mentioned. From 2011 to 2014, there were roughly 200,000 Nissan Muranos made in that 4-year span. Of those 200,000 Muranos, only roughly 7,000 were the Cross Cabriolets. Now that's a 4-year span. I didn't say they made 7,000 in a year. They made 7,000 in 4 years. So that's roughly 1,500, 2,000 or so per year. That's not very much at all. These things are extremely, extremely rare. They sold very poorly, obviously, during their production range. They were looked at as ugly, hideous, disgusting. Who would want one of these? And they decided to stop selling them. And kind of the rumor was that the CEO of Nissan's wife thought that it would be neat to have one of these, a convertible Murano. And he said, hey, let's try it. And it failed miserably. However, fast forward to 2022, and these things are worth more than they were new now. Because people are like, hey, I remember those cross cabriolets that were so cool. I wonder if I can find one. You can't. If you do find one, there's going to be several people looking for it, and there's going to be a bidding war, and you're not going to get it for cheap. You can tell by the stickers on the windshield that this one came from an auction. This is actually owned by a local dealership in town, and once it's all serviced and taken care of, it will be for sale on their lot. Hoovie from Hoovie's Garage actually informed me that he was at this auction and almost bought this car. Because just like I just mentioned, they're becoming cool now. Where they weren't cool back then, they were hideous, ugly ducklings back then. They're not anymore. People are starting to see these and say, you know, it's growing on me, it's actually kind of cool. And now you can't find them anywhere. The price went a little higher than Hoovie wanted to spend, and he let it go, and now this dealership owns it. So we're going to hook the scan tool up to this real quick and see what is going on with the convertible top system. One of the issues, or actually the main issues, is when you try to actuate it with the button, nothing happens. And there is an icon on the dash that's illuminated that informs you that the convertible top has not finished its closing process, even though it kind of has. So there's a switch or something weird going on. We'll take a look at that. Let's get the scan tool out. So this is my Autel MS908. It is wireless. As you can see, there's no cords hooked to it. And it has this wireless dongle, or a VCI, Vehicle Communication Interface, that's connected to the OBD2 port right now. So we'll go ahead and turn this on twice. Go through the little rigmarole here. Murano Cross Cabriolet. North America common. No, actually it's not very common. Sorry. Diagnosis, control unit. And here we have the convertible roof. Let's see what we find. Just like I thought, roof state incorrect. As you can see, the red icon down there on the speedometer, it has an indication that the roof is not all the way closed, even though it is. Unfortunately, that doesn't tell me why or what's going on. It just says the roof state is incorrect. But I know from working on all kinds of different convertible tops that it's probably a micro switch or a broken wire. So one thing I'll go do is go to live data. The roof is on fire on this one. It's not working. Okay. And one thing I'm seeing a mismatch here is the right rear rail is raised, off. The left rear rail is raised, on. Those should be both matching one another because they're both in a similar position right now. So there's all kinds of micro switches. Storage lid, left storage lid, right storage lid, the fifth bow or bow that goes across. The left roof, the front center lock. All of these micro switches. Any one of them could be bad. If any one of them is not giving a right signal, as far as the computer is concerned, this is not fully closed yet. So we're going to have to dig in and start taking things apart. I actually tried to manually unlock the convertible top here. There's through an Allen key. And as you can see, someone has been in here before. They conveniently rounded it out for me. It's stripped out. So I'm going to try something. That's really my only other option. I'm going to go grab a Torx that's a tiny bit larger. What I'm going to do is grab a Torx here, just barely a little bit too big, and see if I can tap it in there. It's kind of crazy to be hammering on a customer's vehicle. I know it doesn't look very good. But really, there's not much of an option here. What else do I do? Drill it out? So let's see what we can do here. Aha! Look at that, guys. It worked. So now I've got it unlocked. I'll just leave that like it is. I'll leave that in there until we're done. So if I need that again. Now let's go ahead and look to the outside of the vehicle. So one thing that's really inconvenient about this Cross Cabriolet is if the convertible top is not working, it has an error code like we just saw, it locks you out of the trunk. It will not let you in. In fact, it beeps angrily at you. Watch. It says, nope, you're not getting in. Thankfully, they have a keyhole. You have to actually take your actual mechanical key out of the key fob, and you can get it open.
So, Wizard, why do they lock you out?
In case it's halfway not closed or all the way open, they don't want you getting in there and jamming it up or breaking it. Or one thing that can commonly cause this issue is this little cover here is not latched. You can see there's a switch here. It looks like somebody was pretty rough with this thing. But it does close, and it shows everything's latched properly as far as that's concerned. One thing I want to show you guys is up inside of here, it's just like the SL600 we saw here recently, or any of the Mercedes. It's all hydraulics, guys. There's hydraulic hoses, hydraulic lines. You can see a ram right there, a cylinder. And there's cylinders all throughout this system. And micro switches, and you can see there's wiring that runs up through there. Same thing on that side. All kinds of brackets and hinges. There's a hydraulic cylinder you can see right there. It's peeking up past the carpet. There's one forward, a large one up there. All kinds of things to look at here. There's also some mechanism here with cables and things going to it. Any of these things can have micro switches to them that are not satisfying the requirements for the computer. We're going to have to go through each and every switch and see if it works.
Okay, Wizard, you keep saying micro switch, but I'm not envisioning that. What does one of those look like?
Just like this. It's a little black box with a lever on it, and it just clicks whenever something mechanically pushes on it. Click. It lets the computer know it's either on or off. That's all it is. When this is all the way properly closed, maybe the switches will now be in the off position. And if it sees off all the way down, it knows all the switches are off, everything's good to go, now we're happy. But if it looks through the list and says off, 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 but this one's still on, which means something's not closed all the way, you're screwed, we're not going to operate anymore. Even though it may be closed, the switch is bad, so as far as the computer is concerned, it's not closed. Let's take a look alongside of the top itself. So it talked about rear left and rear right rail. This is the front rail right here, the left front rail, and from this division here, back is the rear left rail. And if you peek inside of here, you can see there's a harness. There's wiring and switches and even hydraulic cylinders all through this thing on both sides. So I'm going to have to slowly lift this up to get slack in the fabric, unhook some of the cabling that makes this thing taut, and actually get in there and start testing. We saw a difference in the roof rails. One says it's open, the other one says it's closed. That's not going to make a happy computer. So I'm thinking we're having issues with the rails themselves, a micro switch, is not operating, and it can be a broken wire from the constant opening and closing over the years. It flexes the wires and it can break one of them.
Which is also another very common Mercedes problem.
Yes, some of the 2011, 12 SL500s have that problem as well. I fixed a few of them. If you look, and you can see down in there, there's a little linkage that goes to this flap that Mrs. Wizard is holding. That also will have a switch. There's all kinds of linkages and things down there that will also have switches, and there's switches and more switches and more switches. There is tons of things that can go wrong. One little switch goes bad, the entire system will shut down just like it's done. Also, right behind this headrest is a metal silver cover. Those are the rollover protection system. So if you have the top all the way down and this car rolls over, it looks like it could possibly decapitate you or hurt you. But these things in an accident, kind of like at the speed of an airbag, are so fast, they shoot straight up and make really tall, like a barrier. So if it rolls over, it's not going to land on you. It'll actually keep the body up off the ground and keep you safe. Luckily, we don't have any codes or errors with those. I know we wouldn't be able to get those, but we're going to keep on chugging along and see what we can find. Why is this thing not working? So this is actually a very nice vehicle. Like it says, basically a Murano. But they do have convertible top issues, just like this one does. And they're actually very difficult to find someone to work on them. I have a friend who owns a shop in another state, and I sent him some pictures of this. I said, have you ever seen one of these? He said, yes. Just last year I fixed one. It had convertible top issues, and it was some broken wires. I got it fixed. But the customer that had brought him a white version of these, is a white cross cabriolet, said in the area around them he had been to 3 dealerships. This is the Nissan company that made this car. 3 different dealerships. One of them he went to and told him what it was, and every time that the customer would start to speak, the service manager would just go, nope. He said, but my car is, nope. Well, the convertible top, nope. He said, nope, we don't work on those here. I don't want it in my shop. We're not working on that convertible top system on the Cross Cabriolet. He said, fine, I'll try another dealership. He went to another dealership, and it's actually a much nicer service manager who said, we would love to work on it. If you have other issues with the car, we would work on it. But the convertible top system, he said, even though it's not very old, it's only a few years old comparatively, none of my techs have the training. We don't have the tooling. We can't get the parts. There's nothing we can do for you. If we can get the parts, they're going to be $2 grand for this one, $4 grand for that one. They just don't make them anymore. So he left and went to a third dealership. And the third dealership basically told him the same thing. Nope, sorry, we can't help you. Finally, he took it to my friend who owns a shop, and he did fix it. But you have to keep in mind, when a dealership sees this car come in with convertible top problems, the amount of profit they see is negative dollars profit. They will actually lose money for the dealership to work on your car. It doesn't matter what kind of sob story you have. It doesn't matter how much you plead with them and say, please, this car is so nice, it just needs some wiring fixes. No. It's a negative profit situation. I'm not touching your car. If I can't make money, which I'm kind of that way myself, but at least I'll try. At least I'll try to help someone. They told him we're not even going to try. So.
But, you know, was it at least they're honest enough to not try and work on their car when they're not even qualified to do it or been trained to?
I do applaud them for that. They were honest. They gave them the boot. But if you buy one of these, everything else in the car will be easy to fix. If you have convertible top problems and you live in this area, please bring it to me. I will fix it for you. But if you take it to a dealership, even they will not work on this car. And it's not like this car is 20 years old. It's only like 6 or 7. It's not that old. And this is a 2014. It is the last year that they made these, the lowest production year. So it's very interesting. I thought you guys would like to check out a video on this because it's such a strange car and a strange situation. But we're going to dig into this and see what we can figure out and get it fixed for the customer. If you're curious what kind of tools we're going to use to fix the convertible top on this, check my Amazon affiliates link in the description below, and all the tools I just used to open the top here are listed for sale there. And make sure to hit the subscribe button because stuff like this rolls into this shop on a daily basis. More videos for you guys. Thanks for watching.